Each year on Memorial Day, we honor Americans who stepped forward in times of conflict. When it comes to World War II, veterans that we picture, GIs storming the beach. In fact, members of the greatest generation and those that followed included women, and it's hard not to call some of them heroes. Ed Pearce has one local woman's story.
Earlier this year, Doris Howard's life journey ended, as it has for so many, with a traditional ceremony here at the Veterans Cemetery in Fernley. When completed, the inscription will read simply, First Lieutenant, U.S. Army. By all accounts, we can say that she would have found that sufficient. But there's a story behind that name and rank, one that deserves telling. She was born Doris Gardner 103 years ago, and at an early age had developed a desire to see the world beyond her Wisconsin hometown. She had set her sights on a career as an airline stewardess, which in those days required a nursing degree. By late 1941, she had that degree and was putting new skills to work in a local maternity ward. The world had other plans.
Before the end of 1941, she went down within a few weeks of the war breaking out. I'll help.
That decision set a pattern. Initially assigned to home duty, she could have served out the war at stateside hospitals.
But Mom kept asking for it. She said, I know you need help, so send me. I'm single, I don't have children, I'm young. Send me where you need me most.
The Army finally listened and transferred her to a succession of hospital ships, which followed as the U.S. made its way across the Pacific, receiving and caring for the wounded in each battle.
16 battles that she was in.
That's a lot of war.
Where can I help most? And
wanted to go where the need was.
Right. And that, to her, was the front.
Her last assignment was on the USS Comfort, caring for the wounded on Okinawa. April of 1945, it left fully loaded, transporting injured servicemen to hospitals in Guam. There was an assumption that Comfort enjoyed the protection of the Geneva Convention, clearly marked as a non-combat safe harbor in the midst of war. And it's likely all on board relaxed a bit 4 hours underway when the lights were turned on, fully illuminating the bold red crosses on its superstructure. But out there in the darkness, a lurking kamikaze pilot aimed his plane at the cross and midships.
Nurses were among the victims when the plane plunged into the surgical section of the ship.
The impact took out the ship's surgical unit, and with it the lives of 6 nurses, 4 surgeons, and 7 patients. Moments later, the plane's gasoline exploded. In the adjoining post-surgical ward, the 5-foot, 85-pound nurse was tossed against a bulkhead.
So she snapped her spine and hit her head really hard, and she had back problems for the rest of her life, upper and lower. She lost her hearing for 12 hours, and she was in a terrible daze.
So she couldn't hear the abandoned ship order that followed as the ship began taking on water. But through sign language, the corpsman made her aware. And she knew what this meant. All on board had long since taken note of the number of lifeboats and realized there was not enough for both crew and patients. Plus, an injured serviceman in her care was on oxygen and couldn't go.
So she held his hand and she just said, don't worry, I won't leave you. I asked her about that, and she said no one should die alone, and I was going to go down with him.
Eventually, the damage was contained, the abandoned ship order withdrawn, and the Comfort limped on. Doris served out the war, married, and raised a family. Her spinal injuries plagued her for the rest of her life. Some who heard her story have felt her actions following the kamikaze attack were medal-worthy. In fact, they didn't even gain her a Purple Heart. Inquiries have resulted in no satisfactory reason for this oversight.
Her injuries were soft tissue, and that does not qualify you for a Purple Heart.
Did she consider herself a hero?
Oh, of course not. No.
If she were still here, it's likely she would shrug and point out she was simply serving where she was needed most. Ed Pearce, KOLO 8 News Now.